Hey everyone, welcome to another Practical Pet Chat. Always so much fun to get with you and just talk about some unique things going on in the pet world. I've got a unique one today, Lorin. So I've been to a number of conferences lately in a number of different industries, and I just came back from a very tech-heavy conference. And I had an experience that was really interesting and kind of it was really unique, but I don't think it's going to be so unique going forward. Um, I encountered my first robot dog, and there were other AI enabled. I don't even know what to call them, like animatronic, but they were so realistic in their look and their feel that it just sparked this conversation between me and several folks, and was a talking point as I was going and having different meetings throughout. Where do you fall on this continued growth and encroachment of AI and robots into the pet world?
Well, I don't think it's good for business. I don't think it's good for the pet industry. Um, gosh, I'm conflicted mostly because I love tech. I love everything
Yeah,
tech. It's fascinating. It's awe-inspiring. It's scary. Um, it's good and bad, and has evil traits to it depending on the usage of it. Pets. So, do you remember oh my gosh, I want to say it was 10 or 15 years, probably 15 years ago, the first robot dog?
oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think it was even being sold on one of the big box platforms. Um, it was interesting. I saw it in person. It was interesting to look at. And I just dismissed it at the time because, of course, it could never replace a real dog. But it's it's interesting because I'm trying to think of the reasons people might justify this. I've been reading over the last couple of years that this is actually a big thing in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, Asia specifically, where they're very much embracing this. And I found the article fascinating to read their perspectives on it and how they felt about it. It's again, it's conflicting because, some of the feedback was, well, it doesn't shed,
Mhm.
and it doesn't require that I get up in the middle of the night, and it doesn't require that I give up vacations and my lifestyle and those kinds of things, all of which seem like, yes, you probably shouldn't have a living creature to take care of. If those are your priorities, and you can't make time for that. But at the same time, what do you get from that? There's none of that joy. I'm only guessing because I can't speak for those people who maybe they feel joy for that. But, you and I are hardcore animal lovers, and the unconditional love, the complete joy, the warmth, the understanding when they look at you, the way they try to communicate with you, the way they spend time with you, the way they touch you. Um, I don't see getting that from metal. And that said, if you took the dog and cat aspect out of it, or the conventional pet aspect out of it, and you made it something less pet-like and more, I think you and I had discussed this, and I know you'll talk about it, but something a little more exotic, like, a panda, or something specifically not household pet. I think it would be fascinating
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have that expectation of experience of what I want back from that. So, from an entertainment standpoint, and that kind of thing, I still think there's a lack of an emotional connection for me, but I don't know how that would be for other people.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say that's where you and I maybe experience it a little differently. I agree with you. It's not going to replace a heartbeat. It's not going to replace all the warmth, all the loving. Um, a living being is a living being, and there's just an innate warmth to that that I don't care how good AI gets. At least I am not going to be able to get that same connection. Um, and I think that unconditional love, I think that was a great call out by you. Um, I'm not looking to program something to love me. I
Right.
want it to be natural. And I naturally want to give back. If the dog needs something in the middle of the night, I'm happy to get up. If the cat, needs to snuggle in, snuggle in. You want to talk. I mean, there is just the natural side of things, the non-programmed, non-scripted, um, when our dogs or cats or birds have that innate sense to communicate with us, however they're communicating, um, it's cool because it's in the moment and that's from them naturally. I don't know that uh, a robot or AI or any of the other innovations coming forward is going to ever be able to really replicate and do that in a way that a living being can do. That being said, it's interesting because I definitely saw. So for me, I'm a sucker. I mean, you put a picture on a T-shirt, and I'm like, oh, cute dog, oh, and I can get the appreciation going. Not that way for a lot of folks, but I will say that almost all of us, and I think there is that newness factor still. Um, when I saw this thing, I was like, oh my gosh, but it had the machinations of an actual dog. And it was unique, and it spurred this conversation. And one thing that jumped out at me, where I'm like, okay, not for me. I love the uniqueness of it. I love the um, cleverness, and it's gotten better than it ever has. But what I would say is that I don't know that it's ever going to have the cuteness factor. And shut that off over there. That's buzzing. See, that's machines for you. But what I do think is this next generation, because as I was talking to different people and we were all kind of standing around and talking, and it was brought up several because folks know them in the pet world, and they'd say, "Have you seen the?" And it was funny because it wasn't just the robot dog. There was a robot, barista, and there was a robot this and a robot that. It was a tech heavy conference, and but the younger generation, to your point, yeah, they got it. They were like, "Hey, I think that's super cool," and where I live, I can't really have a dog, a cat, a bird, a this, or that. And so it's interesting to me. I think this younger generation is certainly much more open to having those interactions and getting more from it than probably I would. Um, I see that in so many other areas and so many other aspects of life coming this way as well. Um, that yeah, I think we're headed towards this interesting crossroads where my generation and maybe one before it is probably always going to value the heartbeat, the living being interaction over the the AI driven interaction. But as I just look and I see this tech going and going and going, it just spurned this thought for me. It's like I may not find it, but wow, it certainly seems that this younger generation, they get it, and it makes sense since they've grown up with it. But it's not just going to be the pets themselves. I mean, we're going to see it with vets. We're going to see it, I mean, we're already seeing the help that the AI and things like that. But imagine, like, let me ask you this question. Would you get your dogs a robot, pet sitter?
No. It's it's I, I don't, it doesn't sound like we really do differ on this. I see it the way you do. My issue too is if you look at the way humans are headed with AI, with the in-depth conversations, social conversations they have with different AI platforms. And the fact that so many of them are open to an AI partner,
Yeah.
an AI got friend, I guess. It's that disconnect is worrisome. That I think we get further and further and further away from contact with other beings, which don't get me wrong, as it regards humans, I actually get that. But animals, I don't know. It's one of the true, I mean, it's what makes life worth living, frankly, is that connection with animals to think about the level of detachment, and I keep going back to the articles that I read. These people really loved their robot pets. I mean, they
Oh,
loved
you can,
them.
yeah, you can see that.
How do you love
It's not a
that? How do
pet.
you love a machine?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's the projection of what it is and what it represents. I think that is um, exactly what that's feeding into, you know. And I remember if I go back, and this was the interesting part because I had a long drive back from where I was at, and I was thinking about this because it really, stuck with me. Is that when I was in that age bracket, I had said I'm not gonna have a pet until I have the space for it. So when I was in the apartment, it was like I just didn't want to do that to a dog. Now, I should have, and I regretted not doing it, but it was what it represented. And I see that being where these robot, AI, non-heartbeat, things can fill that gap and fill that hole. And I just see it, as you just mentioned, the interactions have really kind of shifted, and we see not just and the reason this is so important for all of us out there, because why are we doing this on a pet chat, right? Is just that detachment also changes how we have discussions, how we have discourse, how we value things, how we go about, getting our information has already changed dramatically because of AI and all the rest of it. And so, it just got me going down this really slippery slope of at what point do we start to see more pets that are robotic in nature versus the actual beings? And I know that sounds crazy right now today, but I'd be interested 50 years, 100 years from now to see if that wasn't just the norm.
So I'm a sci-fi fan, so I like watching all that stuff because interestingly enough, as you look back, they're almost predictors, right?
Yeah.
It's really interesting when you're like, whoa. The connection to a few years later, I saw that movie. Um, so when they get to the point that it's got fur,
Yeah.
and has some sort of warmth emitting from it, um, is cuddly, and it's like the sci-fi movies where the droids are very humanoid in
Right.
how they look. When they can do that with an animal, I guess I could understand that better,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
still breaks my
and I
heart for the
saw,
animals out there.
yeah, but to that point, and I mentioned it to you, I had seen a panda that, you know, probably the most realistic robotic thing I've seen in a while. Now I knew it wasn't a panda, especially since it was tiny, and we're not making mini pandas out there, like mini teacup pigs. It's
Oh my God, don't give anybody an idea.
yeah, no, exactly. But I saw that and I was like, oh my God, that would be adorable. And especially, there are a lot of positives there because it raises awareness and all the rest of that, and you build a love and appreciation for these things. That being said, What you're pointing out, I actually think is the easiest part of it because that is just a, you know, covering over
Hmm.
the robotics. I actually think that's not hard to do. I think getting the motions of that being,
Right.
that's the harder part. Because even I got down to like, folks, you know, I have no shame, right? I got down on the ground when I'm in my, you know, dress clothes and all that, and I'm playing with this thing. And I know that, you know, the person controlling it was just like, what a nutball, but okay, it's gathered a crowd. So yeah, by the way, if you, nobody needs to send me the photos or the video, I've seen it. It's funny. But I really was intrigued and I wanted to see like, okay, I miss Belle when I'm traveling. I can't take her everywhere I go. Maybe this is an answer for me in 25 years. I don't know.
But you have to control it. It would
Yeah,
have to be, it would have to be pre-programmed,
it does.
you know?
And that's the part of it, right? Where it drops off for me right now. But the panda didn't. The panda just snuggled you, right? It was like it was meant to be a comfort and an anxiety tool. I loved
I
that
could
part
see
of it.
that. Yeah.
And I thought like, oh my gosh, I like this. I've got, you know, some family members who are neurodivergent. I would love to have something like this for them. And when the price gets there, that's why I say you sign me up because I'm going to be getting a couple of those. Not necessarily for myself, although I might. I mean, Christmas does roll around once a year. But that being said, that point that you just made, so right now there still has to be programming. There still has to be somebody in control. This was a big unit as well, right? But it sat up on its. I mean, it posed for pictures with me. It was hilarious. But to your point, I didn't have the warmth and the affection. I had the curiosity connection with it,
Hmm.
the uniqueness connection. Um, but I just sat there and I was like, wow, this is this is the day that I recognize that robotic animals are not that far off and are in our future. And I'm going to be having to ask people at some point in the next decade or two. So
Is that a real dog?
yeah, you know. Um, so, so we're gonna have to, you know, societally figure out the right way to ask that question. But yeah, it is wild. And then I think about it too in terms of, and this was another interesting one, you know, is that a possible solution for those who have support, you know, animals right now and or don't have support animals because it takes a long time to train them, etc. And I've been on plenty of flights. I still haven't been on a flight with a support horse, so please let me know if one of those is coming up.
That
But
would fix that issue though, right? That would
yeah,
fix that issue
yeah,
of you can only have a service animal people could take because a lot of places don't take emotional support animals.
right.
This would fix that. I mean, I can see potential. For me personally, I just I don't know.
Well,
I
and
need
think about
that.
hospital. I was thinking about this as well. Think about hospitals, right? It is difficult, you know. I know a lot of wonderful groups who will take animals into the hospital, but those are for visits.
Right.
And, you know, the doctors will tell you just everything from the healing to the emotional spirit, all the rest just goes up exponentially, right? If you could have something like that in those environments the entire time, I'm all for that. I think that would
Be
be,
interesting to see the studies on that, to
yeah,
see how that measures if people have the same response and
yeah,
the same healing potential with animatronic, or where animatronic will ultimately be as they would with real creatures.
yeah.
That's
No,
fascinating.
yeah, it is. It is going to be interesting. I don't know. Well, so we have really gone the gamut here. And you know, folks, I really want to hear from you on this. This time I'm going to read your emails. Send them to practicalpetchat@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts about this whole AI twist and the robotics twist of pets being robotic and controlled by AI. Would you embrace them? Would you want them? I got to admit, I'm kind of one of those people. I'm torn. I'm open to it, but I'm always going to have my real pets, my heartbeat pets, as I call them, living beings as well. So maybe they can learn. That's another interesting twist of this, right, Lauren? Is could they get along and learn to interact? Could you use the robotic animal to train certain habits in your living being animal? Could
That's
that be the next
interesting.
generation of
The,
there are
the
so many.
sniffing of butts is going to be an issue. I can tell you that.
There'll probably be some little patch that's for sale.
Yeah,
You
there'll
can,
have to be something that you spray right there.
that's so funny. Oh my gosh. All right. For that email, again,
You can reach out to
practicalpetchat@gmail.com.
me.
Yeah, Lauren will read those. The sniffing. Can you imagine the advertising request for that one? That would be just great. Hey,
It would be great.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, hey, we know you've got a lot going on in your week. Let us know your thoughts. Visit us on all the different social media networks that you can find us. Thanks as always for joining us here on Practical Pet Chat.
Thanks, guys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.